Generative AI is changing the video production industry in big ways. What do you think about this shift, and how do you see the products like Guide transforming the video creation industry now?
Well, so I think, first of all, in today's world, content is key. And the reason for it, because each of us that has used ChatGPT or similar tools like that, if you ask a question and the content doesn't exist or it's not up to date because it's content from 2 years ago, then the value of the chatbot is zero, right? So you need a lot of content. You need to make sure it's up to date, and you need to cover all aspects that is possible. So I think first of all is content creation is like the training data for big data in the past. This is like the knowledge data for the chatbots that we later use. Then the second part is personalization. Like to create content or personalized content at scale is really hard. But with ChatGPT and Claude and other LLM tool, it makes it really accessible, whether it's text or whether it's video. Now I'm able to address a question. Let's say a user asks a question about Guide. If he's based in Europe or the US, I might address GDPR or not. If he's a sales rep or support engineer, he might look for a different topic. If he wants to integrate Salesforce or HubSpot, so based on who you are, your environment, your role, your geolocation. So there's a lot of aspects where you're able to, on one hand, create those like personalized snippets and then surface it based on the user needs and the user context. And again, I think it's something that it's like most user, when you ask a question, right? If you go to ChatGPT and ask a question, you won't say, okay, I'm Yoav, I'm 40 years old, I have 3 kids, I'm a CEO in Guide, I have an MBA from university. Like you don't give that context. So I think what special about Guide that when the user create the content and search the content, we extract the context out of the box. So we know if your department, your company size, your geo, your role, if you're a new user or existing user. So there's a lot of like, did you integrate Jira with AWS or with Azure or with Google Cloud? So based on a lot of environment and user attributes, we're able to understand the context and use it both for the creation and for the recommendation engine.
By automating video creation, Guide seems to open new doors for companies' content and knowledge management. Do you see AI-driven documentation as a key part of the future here?
So I think, first of all, there's like different way of documentation. There's like the traditional text and screenshot. There are like so today there's pop-up checklist. There's like product tools where you have a click-through process. So I think what's unique about video is you have the sound or the audio aspect. So you can hear someone explain you the motivation, the context, not just how to do stuff, but why. Because if, let's say you look at the BI dashboard, I can show you how to create a new graph or a new pie chart. But if I can explain you the metrics, the KPIs, the trend, that has bigger value. So I think that's why video is relatively unique. Second part is today, the day-to-day tools that most of the employees have are either PowerPoint on one hand and maybe Zoom or Teams on the other hand. And Guide has become like a day-to-day tool, which is exactly in between. It's a short form format like TikTok. It's not a Netflix episode. It's a 1-2 minute long, which is critical because most viewers will stop watching the content between 40 seconds to 80 seconds because the time span and attention is really limited. So we need to be able to pass the information in a focused way. And on the other hand, if you send someone PowerPoint, even if it has speaker notes, it's really hard to understand the slides and what it talks about. So it's really like kind of a speaking or talking head that walk you through a process or a concept, but in a crystal and short manner. So that's why I think it's a huge change. And some of the trends we see today in the market is, one is translation. We see it a lot, like I want to work with a customer in Japan or in Germany. I can easily create the content in their own language. I don't need to be a native speaker in those. So it kind of helps with language or cultural barriers. Another thing that we've seen starting to see more and more are not just text-to-text model, but also images-to-text model, video-to-text model, or video-to-video, images-to-video, like different models, which each of them can address different use case, like turning a PDF to a video or a PowerPoint to a video, turning a video to a written knowledge article. So there's like a lot of back and forth, and also extracting highlights from a long Zoom session. Well, let's take, you had a 1 hour long webinar or 1 hour long Zoom training session at work. And then 2 months after you remember that they explained it to you, there's no way you can find it in an easy manner. So what Guidde is able to do, and other tools as well, could extract specific snippet, like a 2-minute snippet where you explain something and create for you kind of a FAQ library, which is searchable, and you can find like it's your own private YouTube library with a bunch of short answers to every question you can think of.
How can AI-powered video documentation improve customer support and reduce the learning curve for users dealing with complex software?
So I think we touched a bit about it before. I think, for example, one of the fintech companies that uses Guidde, when we talked to them, they had around 1,000 different integration. Like, how do you integrate it with Stripe? How do you integrate it with Salesforce? How do you integrate it with Microsoft Defender? So they have a bunch of integration. Around 10 of them were covered in documentation, and the rest were like, there was like one person in the company that knew how to do it, and if he as soon as he left, there's like zero knowledge. So I think part of it is, first of all, capturing the knowledge. I call it sometimes the tribal knowledge, like capturing the knowledge and make it accessible. That's one thing. And then using it for enablement, like how do I train new employees? How do I train existing employees on new feature and changes in the product or in processes? So I think that's one aspect. The second aspect is, of course, making the video interactive. Someone asked IT help desk, hey guys, how can I set up the VPN? The answer is different if you're using a Windows or a Mac, right? So inside the video, you can ask a question, hey, are you using a Mac or Windows? If it's Windows, cool, I'll show you how. If it's Mac, I'll show you the other way around. So I think making it more interactive also reduces the question and make it more self-sufficient. And the last part is, of course, make it as self-service as possible, like making it accessible so user won't need to reach out to support, or employees in big corporate won't need to reach out to the IT help desk. Or sometimes it's a simple question like, how do I submit an expense report, or how do I print a page in the printer? So there's like those simple questions that sometimes there's a lot of question, and in this case, you can just address them with a short video and make sure it's just easy to find, so user don't need to reach out to a team member or to IT for a question.
And if we talk about integrating AI into products, from your perspective, what is the best approach to integrate AI into products strategically, not chaotically, as some businesses do?
So I think first of all, one of the key elements is, it's go back to our previous discussion, is jobs to be done. What are you trying to solve? And then pick the right LLM for the job. Not every LLM model is the right one for your needs. So that's one thing. Second of all, I think context. If you don't provide the right context to the LLM model, it's useless. If it doesn't know your name, if it doesn't know where you live, if it doesn't know your role, it doesn't know if it's a question about Salesforce, if you didn't enrich it with the like external information or help center of Salesforce, it's lacking context. If it's a question about a new feature, if you feed it the information, the product requirements from the Jira, the design from Figma. So the more context around the question you provide the model, the better and more accurate response you'll get. So, and then I think the second step is not just the context, it's also tuning of the model. Like, you don't need to retrain the model every time, but you need some sort of a tuning process or a feedback loop to help the model improve over time. For example, I created a video using Guidde, then I made some edits. I want my edits to be feedback to the LLM model, so next time I won't need to do it. So that's like just one example of how you can use like the user actions to feed it back to the LLM, so it improves over time without you basically doing anything. eventually, hopefully, you'll have 0 edits, but it takes time. So I think that's like continuous improvement of the model. That's like a key aspect to make sure it keeps evolving.